Welcome everyone to another video where I discuss Guild Wars 2 and yet another new player milestone that I've hit. I guess this one's kind of discussing two things. It's kind of discussing level 1 to 80, but also, and more specifically, the personal story. If this is your first video you've seen of mine, I just finished a blind playthrough of a Sylvari personal story. And yeah, so that video, just the finale, just came out mere hours before this video was released. So if you're interested in seeing a new player's perspective playing through the personal story, I highly recommend you go check it out. Or if you'd like to hop in now, I'm about to begin the Living World Season 2 story, and we're going to play through everything in order. And maybe by the time the next expansion comes out, I'll be starting End of Dragons, because my goodness, there's so much content to this game, which is a great problem to have. I'm not complaining, but I'm also not going to skip anything. So anyways, I've got some notes written down here. I don't really have a script per se, so my apologies if I seem to jump from point to point, thing to thing, without a whole lot of thought. Let me start by saying, historically speaking, with MMOs, I lean toward being a solo player. Now, part of that is because of just time and living situation. Like, I'm not always, I can't always just hop on and commit to playing with other people. Like, I generally need to be able to step away at a moment's notice, and I don't want to leave people hanging. So anyways, historically, I've never been a group player. I've always been a solo player in MMOs, and that's one of the things that attracted me to Guild Wars 2 and really Guild Wars 1 back in the day, although really the only thing attracting me to Guild Wars 1 back in the day was I didn't have to pay a monthly fee. So Guild Wars 2, though, back when I first started playing it years ago, I didn't get very far, but I loved it because as a solo player, I felt like I was truly enjoying the game. You can't say that about a lot of MMOs. A lot of MMOs pretty quickly lead you into situations where you need to be playing with a group of people, or at least you feel like you need to. Guild Wars 2 didn't do that, and I think the personal story plays a huge role in that, although obviously things like world events, dynamic world events where you just kind of happen upon a thing happening and you do it with other players, but you're not really grouped with them. Like, you can walk away from that event and it keeps going and they keep succeeding with or without you. So there's not that burden of the group dynamic, but there's the benefit of it. But the personal story provides even more of that single player experience that I generally lean toward. Let's start with this. MMOs are generally really bad at storytelling. And I say that, but I don't think it's their fault. I think it's just the way the games work. It's just inherently built into the nature of an MMO that storytelling is going to be difficult at best. And the reason is there's just too much to do. There's so many things there to distract you. There are so many systems. And honestly, it's the game or the gameplay getting in the way of the story. And I feel like Guild Wars 2 does a really good job at working around this. Of all the MMOs I've played, which isn't a huge amount, but of the ones I've played, Guild Wars 2 did best at creating memorable characters. Now, I could not go through and tell you all about every character I met in the story, but the key ones, Trahearne, Tybalt, Jaffa, that was her name, right? Zoja. It's Zoja, you idiot. This is the other problem, is I'm just bad at fantasy names in general, but I know who the character is, and that says a lot, because for most MMOs I've played, that's not the case. It's just a sea of generic fantasy faces with a sea of generic fantasy names, which, if I'm going to be honest, Guild Wars 2 suffers from a little bit, especially with a lot of the char characters. Like, they have great char names, but I couldn't tell you a single one of them. Thor Thunderbutt, I don't know, something like that. They've got great names, but they're just not memorable to me. When it comes to like gameplay mechanics, and this doesn't really have to do with the personal story necessarily, but I think this is the place that if it were to exist, it should exist in the personal story. I feel like gameplay mechanics, for the most part, I didn't feel like I was ever punished for not understanding, except CC bars. I don't remember the game ever explaining it to me, and if it did a horrible job of it, and my viewers explained it to me, but I only needed it once so far, and I just knew that with my character, with the weapon set at the time, I pressed 4 on a specific, here's the problem. That's one of those mechanics that you don't use often enough, but I don't remember it. And so I feel like things like that, mechanics like that, would probably be best served if they were taught in the personal story. Okay, so I think that kind of covers all of my notes that don't have to do with the ending of the personal story. Now let's get into the other half of my notes, because that ending is like watching a car accident that begins with you saying, I think that car just hit the guy in front of him, and then very rapidly grows into a 10 or 20 or 30 car pileup where all directions are blocked and there's no hope of getting through. That ending is awful, but I think I have a solution that ArenaNet should do. Not that I expect them to listen to this video or listen to the words I say, but I think it's a fix that requires minimal effort, but accomplishes something that I think they wanted to do, and it does it better. So let's start. Let's start with the eye fight, right? The eye fight was the moment I thought, okay, and I'm talking about the fight. I'm not talking about after the fight. I'm talking about the fight itself. Was the moment I sat back and said, okay, I was expecting a little bit more at this point in the game. Now, I did die, and it was fun, and the whole, like, ghost eyes helping it, I don't really know what to call them, I don't remember what they were called, but the mimic eyes that I had to avoid, the bullet, you know what, the bullet hell dodging part of that was actually really fun. I really enjoyed that. I'd like more of that. It's frustrating, but it's fun. But then again, I enjoy bullet hell games. So, that I enjoyed. I kind of thought there were going to be more waves to the eye fight. I thought there was going to be a little bit more depth to it, but I also figured out pretty quickly, okay, there's going to be more, obviously there's going to be more to it after this. I had to go fight Zhaitan. So we get done with the eye fight, right? And this is where I start to realize not only is there an accident that's happened, but it's about to get worse. So after the eye fight, we have a little cutscene with Trahearne, and Trahearne says, okay, I need to perform this ritual. And this was something I've already talked about in my comments a bit, but I'm gonna verbalize it here as well. I know there's a lot of people who love the moment of the ritual, where Trahearne is cleansing the source of ore, I think it is, and
the line's broken. We're being overwhelmed.
You have to protect him, right? And at this moment, a lot of people love what they do, where they cut out all sound except for the music, and this is my problem, and all of the Risen sounds and the hero's dialogues. So there's this beautiful epic music playing, and even I sat back at this moment and thought, oh cool, they're doing something kind of cinematic. But then at the same time, I'm hearing, like, directly in my ears, and I'll explain exactly what I mean by that in a second. I hear the Risen, you know, all that, and then I hear the heroes, get him, let's go, get him, attack, you know. You hear all this dialogue clearly, plain as day in your ears, but you don't hear any of the ambient sounds. You don't hear any of the attacks. You just hear the noises from everybody's mouths and the music. You don't even hear, like, the sound of, like, the ritual happening. I understand they were trying to be cinematic with this moment, and I think it's a really good idea. I just think they executed it about as poorly as they possibly could. Because here's what they should have done. They should have brought the music up And then on everything else, do a low pass filter. Wait, low pass filter or high pass filter? I can never keep them straight. I always feel like a high pass filter. A high pass filter. A high pass filter is where you cut out all of the highest frequencies. And so you just hear so it's muddy. It's muddier sounding, right? So you do a high pass filter on all the other sounds except for the music. So the ambience, the dialogue, the attacks, you run a high pass filter. Then you bring the volume down a little bit. You add some reverb and maybe some delay. And all of a sudden that creates this dreamlike sounding atmosphere. You recognize as a player, oh, this is so cinematic, and I'm in the middle of something important. And like, what's really important is the moment, not the gameplay. What's really important is what's happening in the story with Trahearne and Cleansing Ore, and that this is a huge deal for the story. And yes, I'm playing a part in fighting off all the bad guys, but that's not the point. The gameplay, the combat is not the point of that moment. But it also doesn't take you out of the moment. It amplifies everything in the moment by highlighting things, but not taking away most other things. And I feel like, honestly, if they had also just removed, it would have been better if they had just removed all of the vocal dialogue from the enemies. And if they had just removed all the dialogue and added the sound of the ritual along with the music, I think it would have been fine. I would have said they went 50% of the way there. But as it stands right now, it's like 25% of the way there, because by keeping the dialogue, it did. Because of that, it made me step back and go, is this bugged? Is something wrong? Because this doesn't sound right. It sounds uncomfortable. It doesn't sound heroic. It sounds uncomfortable. So I think there's a way to fix that. Now, here's how to fix the rest of it. So let's say they fix the audio in that part. What if from after the eye, from the ritual onwards, they continued that theme and feeling of being cinematic, not gameplay focused. Focus on being theatrical at this point and just let go of gameplay, let go of difficulty, just let us do things in a theatrical way. A lot of games nowadays try to do this with QuickTime events. That is not what I'm talking about. Here's what I suggest they do. So if I remember correctly, after the ritual, you hop on the ship, you hop on the airship. I think I'm missing a part here, but anyways, eventually you end up on the airship. Yeah, I know what part I'm forgetting. That's fine. Do that part the same. That part was fine. You have to go get like the ship parts or whatever. So you get on the ship, and then you've got there's this slow progression of turret mechanics. I enjoyed that because I thought it was going somewhere, but then it went nowhere and it fell flat. So here's how you fix this. From the moment you get in the ship, have the NPCs manning the other guns. I was so frustrated and so taken out of the moment because I'm on a ship with a whole bunch of allies. They're just sitting there in the helm or in the ship body somewhere, watching me man one of 6 guns and also fighting off bad guys. And the only time they came out was to help me if I was dead or if I was downed. They would come out and help me. Why not make that moment theatrical? Every time you're in the turret, you've got allies in the turrets on either side of you. You have allies, standing on the bow of the ship, fighting off the bad guys who are trying to get you while you're manning the turrets. Why not have Jaffa, Zoja, you idiot, Zoja, in the helm, like on like a megaphone out on the deck. We need more troops on the west side. More troops on the west side. And then they shift over, blah, 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 whatever. Make it more theatrical. You don't have to change anything with the combat. You just have to change the NPC AI, what they do. That's all you got to do. Then, same thing, you get to the mouth fight. They help you destroy the towers, and then they help you fight the mouth. And if you don't figure out to pick up the fireball and throw it in the mouth of Kirby when Kirby's sucking up everything, they shout out, try throwing a fireball at its mouth. And then I, the player, wouldn't have to go look it up to see what the heck I'm supposed to do, because here's my problem with that. I love that mechanic. That Kirby fireball mechanic, that's just what I'm going to call it, was beautiful. It was amazing. The problem is the game did nothing in the personal story leading up to it to prepare me for mechanics like that. There have been so few instances where I was fighting a thing where it wasn't just, okay, do your normal fighting stuff. This was what I felt like. I know I have a few times. I don't remember if they were a part of the story or if they were world bosses I was doing. Like I went into a, I don't even remember what it's called now. The fight, I've done it twice, where there's like a portal or something, and you have to like open the portal and go into the portal, and then you fight the like boss in the portal or whatever, and then you got to escape the portal. I don't remember what it's called. Like that had mechanics to it that I was really bad at, but they were mechanics and I understood them. The mouth fight, maybe I missed something, but there was nothing there that I noticed that was kind of hinting me at, hey, why don't you try picking up those fireballs on the ground? You should throw that at his mouth when he's sucking it up. Part of it is I was just focused so much on him. I think the only clue that they give you is when you walk near the fireball, it pops up with a thing saying, hey, pick this up. And then you put two and two together when you see him sucking in everything. I feel like they could have fixed that with NPCs being there with you, because once again, they just drop you off on your own. And what's funny to me is, yeah, at first I think you go there in a helicopter because you need to clear that area so that they can proceed. But then when you die, the ship is docked right there next to you. So maybe it lets you try it by yourself once, and then the second time after you've died, maybe they come and join you. How theatrical would that be? Hey, we're here with you now. Let's go help you get this together. Or if you do it by yourself, great. Hurrah! You know, they celebrate your victory that you did all by yourself. So anyways, let it be theatrical. Let there be NPCs helping you because they're there. At this point in the game, it's not about you, it's about the whole group. Then the Zhaitan fight. Do the same exact thing. Here we are on this massive ship that I know has lots of people on it because they were on it when I killed Zhaitan. Let them man the other 19 turrets on that ship. I understand, and I'm sure some of you have already written the comment. I understand that this whole section of the game was originally designed and I think required to be done with a group. I understand that. They've made it worse by dumbing it down, by simplifying the combat of it, but not also simplifying the visuals of it. If they just switched it up to be like this tiny little ship that it's just me and Traherne piloting it or something, you know what I mean? Like, if that's all it was, it would make sense. But instead, we're on this massive vessel with minimum 20 other people, and it's just me doing all the work? No! It's so anticlimactic. It's so unthematic. And if all they did was put NPCs in the turrets and some on the ship deck to like ward off bad guys, and then get rid of the dumb worms that pop out of the ground when you kill Zhaitan, because that made no sense. No sense. And this to me was just like beyond the straw that broke the camel's back. It's already felt unthematic. It's already felt unimmersive. I've just killed Zhaitan by myself, and then the entire ship deck is filled with people cheering me and clapping as I'm proceeding to kill all these worms that have just popped out of the deck. What the heck? Like, there's so many little things that ArenaNet could do, and I think they should. I think when End of Dragons has received a few patches and is coasting smoothly, I think that's what they should do. I think they should go back and fix the end of the personal story, and here's why. If I weren't doing these YouTube videos, if I weren't playing along with viewers who are encouraging me and giving me context, and watching and what was I gonna say? And giving me warnings for what's about to come, because some people did. They didn't warn me heavily, but they warned me a little, saying, hey, the end of the personal story is not great. I think they've even warned me Living World 2 isn't great, but after that it picks up and it's amazing. And I'm so thankful they all told me that. But nothing prepared me for how bad the end of the personal story is. Nothing prepared me for how bad it was. And if I weren't doing these videos, if I didn't have this audience encouraging me and helping me, I would likely quit the game. I probably would not have finished the personal story. Especially like all the stuff that happens after the Zhaitan fight, I probably would have stopped playing. The fact that this is the last thing that ArenaNet offers their free players in terms of story progression is pitiful and a bad business decision. You've got to do what you can to fix that because it's bad. And you, viewers, you Guild Wars 2 players, you veterans, please do everything you can to warn new players in the vaguest way possible, but make sure they understand, hey, the ending of the personal story, it's really weird. It's really dumb, and we know it is, and ArenaNet knows it is. Push through it. It's like the first season of Parks and Rec. You've just got to push through it. So with that being said, I'm really excited to start Living World Season 2 and move on from there. How we're going to do it is we'll continue the schedule that we've been having, where I have a story episode on Sunday and Thursday. There may be weeks where I sneak in another one here or there if I have an open slot in my schedule. But for now, story missions, story videos will be Sunday and Thursday. And then Tuesdays will be highlights or a chunk of our live stream on Sunday nights. By the way, I live stream Guild Wars 2 every Sunday night. We do a big group live stream with guildies, and we go out and do dailies, dungeons, and this is a time for me to learn new things and new mechanics and new gameplay styles with my friends, with veterans who can teach me things that like aren't in the personal story, but things that I want to learn and explore, but I don't want to do it on my own. So I'd love it if you would come over twitch.tv/Kyle Blaine if you'd like to join us there. We stream every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know we ended a lot on some complaints, but let me assure you, I'm loving the game. I loved the personal story. I just think it ends with a really, really, really bad taste in my mouth.